Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Daniela, and if you're new here, I make upcycling videos and also some basic tutorials for sewing and some DIYs. In this tutorial, we will be seeing how did I make this Alia cut kurta with full sleeves using a sari. If you want to use normal fabric, go ahead and do that. You don't need to have a sari to complete this tutorial. Also, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also leave in the comment section if you have any suggestions for me. So without any further delay, let's get into the video. Let's start with cutting the upper part of the bodice. I will be cutting the front and the back together, so there are two folds. Then I will draw a reference line. Then I will mark my shoulder to bust measurement. And then I will come down by 5 inch from my bust point. And draw a horizontal line on this point and also on the bust point. Then for the armhole, mark the shoulder divide by 2. Come 1 inch down for the shoulder slope. Then mark the same measurement as your shoulder downwards for the armhole curve. And then extend this line. Then go ahead and mark the midpoint of this line. Come half inch inside for the front armhole. On the upper bust line, mark a point at bust divide by 4. Then join these 3 points with a curve. For the back armhole, just join the midpoint. For the neckline, based on how deep you want your neckline, mark a point and then join it with the shoulder line. I have taken the width of the shoulder line as 2. Now, on this line that you have drawn, mark the midpoint and come half inch inside. And then create a curve like this for the... Now, this was your front neckline. For the back neckline, I will take the depth as 3 inches and then join it with the same point. Now we need to create this V that is shown on this. For this, mark a point 1 inch below your bust line. Now on your waist, mark a point at waist divide by 4. Now join these 2 points. On the upper bust line, I will add 1/4 of an inch and then I will join all these 3 points together. Then I will add seam allowance at the bottom and on the sides. I have only added it at the bottom and on the sides, but while cutting it, I will also be adding seam allowance on the armhole curve and also on the neckline. Once this is done, go ahead and cut your pieces. Now we have done this on the lining fabric. Always do your cutting first on the lining fabric. So anything goes wrong, only your lining fabric is affected, not your main fabric. You can see that I have added seam allowance while cutting on the armhole curves as well as on the neckline. First, always do the cutting of the back part and then do the cutting of the front part. The V at the bottom, I will be cutting it together with the main fabric. So once your cutting is done, keep your lining fabric on the main fabric and also go ahead and cut the same pieces of the main fabric. Once you have cut the main fabric, for the front pattern, we are going to go ahead and cut that V shape like this. Once this is done, let's go ahead and cut the bottom part. The whole width of the fabric is 44 inches. On fold, it's 22 inches. Then you decide what length do you want your bottom part to be from the waistline and then mark that point and go ahead and cut it. Now this was for your back pattern, okay? Remember, this is for your back pattern. This is just going to be a rectangle. Now for your front pattern, whatever the length you took for the back, you have to take 4 inch extra. Then draw a horizontal line on that particular length. Now on the side where there is no fold, come 4 inch down and mark that point. You remember on the front we had this V shape. So you have to create this similar V shape here now by joining the point which is on the fold on that line with this point which you had just drawn. Okay? So this is how it will look like. Now go ahead and cut it. Also, I forgot to mention, whatever length you want your bottom part to be plus some inches for the seam allowance. Now let's cut the lining part. I have kept the fabric on fold and I will create a curve here by the measurement. Whatever is your waistline, divide by 3.14. Once you have created a curve, go ahead and measure that curve like this. And the measurement should be your waist divided by 2 plus 1 inch for seam allowance. Create the curve at the bottom as well according to your length. Then for the main fabric, go ahead and create gathers for the bottom part. I have created a separate video about how to add gathers. Make sure you check that out. Now we will attach the lining fabric to the upper part of the bodice. Let's start with the back pattern. I have kept the right sides facing each other for the lining fabric and the main fabric. I will go ahead and stitch it and then add notches. Then flip it on the right side and then I will go ahead and understitch it. I will do the same for the front upper bodice as well. So right sides facing each other and then go ahead and pin it and then take it to the sewing machine and stitch it. Once you have done that, again go ahead and add some notches so that it will be easier for you to flip it on the right side and you will get a smooth neckline curve. And do the understitching for this one as well. Then take your front lining fabric and cut it in this slant way. Go ahead and attach it to the main fabric. Once you have done that, you need to attach your main fabric with the bodice. For that, always mark the midpoint and then based on that midpoint, go ahead and pin the pieces and then stitch it. Once that is done, we will move to the shoulder line. Keep the right sides facing each other and then go ahead and stitch the main fabric with main fabric and lining fabric with the lining fabric like this. Once that is done, your shoulder line will look like this. It looks pretty good. Now we just have to attach both the sides together. On one side we attached a zip. Then now let's go ahead and create the sleeves. I will be cutting both the sleeves in one go. So mark a point at the length of the sleeve. And then I will come 4 inches down and draw a horizontal line. On this line, I will mark the same measurement as my armhole line plus some seam allowance. And then I will draw a slant line like this. And also mark the midpoint of that line. For the back armhole, I will draw a curve like this. For the front armhole, I will mark the midpoint of this part and then draw a curve which looks like S. You see how it looks? Now go ahead and measure that curve. That should be half of your armhole curve. Also check the armhole curve of your garment that you have made to see if the sleeve will fit. If it's correct, go ahead and cut it. But we forgot to do the markings on the wrist part. So let's do that first. Don't take your wrist measurement. Instead, take the widest part of your hand. Okay, take that measurement because it needs to slide through. And mark that measurement. Also mark the round elbow measurement on your sleeve. And then mark a point there. And then connect all these 3 points together. Make sure that you will pin these pieces because otherwise you can see I didn't pin it and what happened. So make sure you pin it and then cut it. Don't forget to add the seam allowance as well. Again for this we cut the back, that's the outermost curve, and then once that is done, open your sleeve and then go ahead and cut the front armhole. As you know, the front armhole is always deeper than the back armhole. I have also notched the midpoint of the sleeve so that it will be easier for me when I will attach the sleeve. Then go ahead and stitch it on the sides. Once you have done it, just go ahead and wear it on your hands to see if it fits properly. Then let's go ahead and attach that sleeve. You can attach it using two ways. One way is I have kept the fabric or the garment on the right side, and then I will attach it like this. Right sides facing right sides. Okay. So the midpoint that we had notched, you have to attach it where the two shoulders are joined. This is one way. Another way is you keep the fabric on the wrong sides and then you insert that sleeve inside the armhole and then you pin it. Before you stitch it, turn it on the right sides to see if the sleeve is looking proper and then go ahead and stitch it. And that's it, your dress is ready.